The gas station clerk doesn't even blink. He's seen it before. The card gets tapped once, twice, a small red X flashing on the screen both times. $31, that's it, $31. And Jake is standing there in front of a stranger in line behind him, the kind of stranger who won't remember this in an hour, but who Jake will remember for the rest of the day. His phone buzzes in his pocket at the exact same moment, a notification. 41 people just liked a photo of a watch he can't actually afford anymore. He glances down at the screen without meaning to, catches the number, and for half a second feels the old familiar pull of it, the little spike that used to feel like winning. Then he looks back up at the clerk, who's already reaching for a different card in Jake's hand, patient in the specific way of someone who's watched this exact scene play out 100 times with 100 different people. Jake doesn't know yet that the declined card and the liked photo are the same story, told from 2 different rooms of the same house. He won't know for another 18 months. By then, it'll cost him something he can't buy back. Level 1, 24 years old. Jake gets his first bonus at work, $800, small by most standards, but the first extra money he's ever seen sitting untouched in an account that used to run close to zero every other Friday. He screenshots the deposit before he's even decided what to do with it, crops out the account number, posts it with 3 fire emojis and a caption that took him 4 tries to get casual enough. 41 likes by morning. A coworker comments, "Let's go." He reads that comment more times than he'd ever admit. Ethan gets the same bonus that same week, same company, same floor, 2 desks down from a printer that jams every Tuesday. He doesn't screenshot anything. He opens a savings account on his lunch break. A plain one, no app notifications turned on, nothing that pings, transfers the money in, and is back at his desk 12 minutes later like nothing happened. His coworker asks what he did with his bonus. Paid off a credit card, Ethan says, which is true, though it isn't the whole answer. Nobody asks the follow-up question. Nobody ever does because a boring answer doesn't invite one. The first rule, what you post is what you need people to see. What you don't post is usually the part that's actually working. Level 2, 27 years old. Jake buys a watch, $3,400, financed over 18 months at a rate he skims past twice without really reading either time, because reading it carefully would mean admitting what he already half knows. He posts his wrist against a car dashboard, sunlight hitting the crystal at an angle he adjusted 6 times to get right, cropping out the dashboard light that flags a maintenance issue he's been ignoring for 3 weeks. 62 likes, 3 comments asking where he got it. He answers all 3 within the hour. He doesn't mention the 18 months, and nobody asks about that either because nobody ever asks about the part underneath the photo. What nobody sees yet is what the watch quietly sets in motion, because 2 months later, the first payment on the watch lands the same week as his car insurance renewal, and something has to move. He puts the insurance on a credit card he's had since college, tells himself it's temporary, a one-time thing, the exact sentence people say right before it stops being temporary and starts being a pattern. Ethan wears a $40 watch with a cracked leather band, still keeping perfect time down to the second, and crosses $19,000 in his brokerage account that same month, a number that exists only on a screen only he ever opens. Check once, briefly before he closes the tab and goes back to making dinner. The second rule, a watch has to be seen to matter to other people. A number in an account only has to be true. But watch what the watch actually starts. Level 3, 29 years old. The credit card Jake used for the insurance now carries a balance that hasn't moved in 5 months because the minimum payment is the easiest math in the world, and easy is the exact thing that got him into this in the first place. He opens a second card that spring to help cover a wedding, a $41,000 total financed across both cards, and a loan from his father. He insists more to himself than to his father that he'll pay back within the year. The wedding gets its own hashtag. 206 posts across 12 accounts, drone footage sweeping over a venue that costs more per hour than most people's rent. A song the DJ had to clear 3 separate times because the label kept flagging it. Ethan gets married that same year in his backyard. 31 guests, folding chairs borrowed from a neighbor, food from the restaurant his fiance used to waitress at, given at a discount out of old loyalty. One photo posted once, no caption but their names and the date. Jake's cousin comments on it anyway, unprompted. Days later, this is actually really beautiful. Jake never sees the comment. Jake is 3 states away that whole weekend, still tagging the florist, still refreshing a video that took longer to edit than Ethan's entire ceremony took to happen. What Jake also doesn't see, because he stopped looking at the actual number on purpose, the way you stop checking a wound you know is worse than it should be, is that the 2 cards combined just quietly crossed $11,000. The third rule, the size of the announcement and the size of the actual thing are almost never the same number, and the gap between them is where debt moves in and starts unpacking its bags like it plans on staying a while. Here's where it turns. Nobody sees this part coming, not even the 2 men living it. Level 4, 32 years old. Ethan gets laid off on a Tuesday, 11 in the morning, a 15-minute video call with HR that ends politely, almost gently, with a cardboard box FedEx to his apartment 3 days later containing a stapler and a framed photo he'd forgotten he even kept on his desk. He doesn't post about it. He doesn't tell his parents that week, not because he's ashamed, but because there's nothing useful they can do from 400 miles away except worry earlier than they need to. He tells exactly one person the day it happens, his wife, sitting across the kitchen table that night, voice flatter than he means it to be, trying to sound calmer than he actually is. We're okay, he tells her, and it's true. But it's true because of 6 years of a habit nobody ever watched him build. A percentage moved automatically on the 15th of every month into an account that was never designed to be looked at, only trusted the way you trust a foundation you poured years before you needed to stand on it. His wife doesn't say, "I told you so." She just reaches across the table, puts her hand over his and says, "We've had worse months than this look like right now." He laughs. Barely. The first real laugh of a hard day. That's the twist nobody's watching for. Ethan isn't winning because his life is easier than Jake's. He's winning because when the hard thing finally arrived at his door, unannounced, on a Tuesday, there was already a floor underneath him that nobody had to see coming for it to hold. The fourth rule, silence doesn't mean nothing bad ever happens to the quiet ones. It means when something bad does happen, there's already something built underneath it that nobody clapped for and nobody needed to. Level 5, 33 years old. Jake's company rolls out an employee stock purchase program that spring, a real one, match contributions, the kind of opportunity that shows up maybe once in a career and doesn't wait around for anyone's cash flow to catch up to it. He wants in badly, the way you want something the moment you realize you might not be able to have it. He runs the numbers on his lunch break in the stairwell, phone calculator, doing the math twice because the first result doesn't look right and the second one looks worse. Between the watch payments still running, the wedding card still sitting at a number he stopped saying out loud, and a car lease he re-signed almost on autopilot the week the last one ended, there's nothing left to put in. Not $50 a paycheck, not 20. He tells his manager he'll look into it next quarter, and both of them know, in the particular way adults know things they don't say, that it isn't true the second it leaves his mouth. That night, he doesn't post anything. There's no photograph for watching a real opportunity walk past you because you spent 3 years buying things that photograph well instead of building something that would have quietly compounded in the background the whole time. The fifth rule, Every dollar spent to look like you've already made it is a dollar that isn't there the one time it actually mattered enough to count. Level 6, 36 years old. The gas station moment finally arrives. The one from the very beginning, $31, declined twice. A stranger in line who'll forget it by lunch, but who Jake carries with him for the rest of the day like a stone in his shoe. That night, he opens every account for the first time in months, really opens them line by line instead of the quick glance he's been giving them. 2 credit cards, a car lease, a watch. He stopped wearing 8 months ago because it started to feel less like a symbol of anything and more like a reminder of a version of himself he's not sure he likes. The total is worse than he let himself calculate in real time, because calculating it in real time would have meant stopping, and stopping never once made it onto a feed worth posting. He calls Ethan that week, first real conversation in over a year. "Since when do you have money for that duplex I heard about?" he asks, half joking, in the specific tone people use when they already suspect the real answer and aren't sure they want it confirmed. Ethan doesn't gloat. He doesn't even correct the tone. "Same money I've always had," he says, quiet, no edge to it. "I just never told you about it." Silence on the line for a second, long enough that Jake almost feels it, then doesn't. He's doing math backward in his head, counting years, counting what the stock program might look like today if the money spent proving something had gone toward the thing itself instead of the appearance of it. 6th rule: silence isn't the absence of struggle, and it isn't proof of comfort either. It's often both, happening in the same life at once, and you only find out which one it actually was once enough time has passed to see the full shape of it. Level 7, 39 years old. Jake deletes the side account, no farewell post, no explanation thread. He just stops quietly, the way people eventually stop doing things that never worked the way they were supposed to work. He sells the watch that spring for less than half of what he financed it for, feels almost nothing handing it over, puts what he gets against the smaller of the 2 cards, and starts the slow, unglamorous work of digging back towards zero. The kind of progress that never once produces anything worth a caption. Ethan doesn't say anything close to "I told you so." He shows up instead, drives 4 hours one Saturday with no announcement, knocks on Jake's door holding 2 coffees and a legal pad, and the 2 of them sit at Jake's kitchen table doing the math nobody wants to do, line by line, card by card, circling numbers in pen like it's homework neither of them assign themselves. "This is going to take a while," Ethan says, not unkindly. "Yeah," Jake says, staring at the pad. "I know." He looks up. "Why'd you drive 4 hours for this?" Ethan shrugs, half a smile. "Because nobody drove 4 hours for me when I needed it. It doesn't mean I couldn't have used it." 6 months later, for the first time since he was 24 years old, Jake ends the month with more money than he started it with. He doesn't post it. He's starting to understand finally why Ethan never did either, not because it was a secret, but because it was never for anyone else to see in the first place. Level 8. The rule stated plainly, the way it should have been said from the very first buzz of a phone at a gas station counter. Rich people don't post their wealth, and struggling people don't always post their struggle either, because both of those things in their real form are quiet by nature. What gets posted is almost always the performance sitting on top of the real thing, built specifically to be seen, and that performance costs money, real money, in the exact place where money was supposed to be growing instead. The people building the most and the people surviving the hardest seasons are usually saying the least about either one, not because they're hiding something shameful, but because the real thing was never built for an audience to begin with. It only ever had to be true to the person living it. 2 men, 1 phone buzzing at a gas station counter 15 years ago, 1 number on a screen only one of them ever bothered to open. Years later, Jake sends a text. No photo, no caption, nothing built to be seen by anyone but the one person it's addressed to. How'd you actually get through it? No question mark. More of an admission than a question. Ethan reads it twice before answering, sitting on his back porch. The duplex's second unit finally rented out that same week. 3 words, the same 3 words that carried him through a layoff nobody saw and helped him build a floor nobody ever clapped for. I just didn't stop. Somewhere right now, someone's phone is buzzing with a notification that feels for one bright second like it means something. Somewhere else, just as quietly unwitnessed, someone's account is moving $50 into a place no one will ever see, like, or comment on. In 15 years, only one of those two things will still be standing.